Good morning. My name is Elizabeth DeVries, and I'm a medium and an intuitive. I also do a lot of healing work, intuitive work, medical intuitive work with animals and with people. Don't mean to be blowing my own horn, but I'm also an artist, so I spend about 2 to 4 hours a day, every day for the last 20 years doing my artwork. I didn't become an artist until I was 60, and it was the most healing choice I ever made. I never thought I had an artistic bone in my body. I always loved art, appreciated art, went to art galleries, was in awe of the great Impressionists and all through the ages, the different sculptors, and even up to modern times. I just love art. I think it's a personal expression of our unique soul. But today, the reason I'm on here, and if you could like this video, and if you want to subscribe, if you feel to do so, that would make my heart very happy. People have been, over the last few months, in America and across the world, because I do my readings everywhere, long distance on the phone, they've been terrified about the direction that our world is taking right now. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit today. I feel right now, there's an old phrase, you're in the belly of the beast, which means you're right in the center core of what's going on. If you took the wheel of fortune where it goes around, this is where I feel we are right now. I feel we're at the nadir of our lives. I feel that we came to this earth knowing we would face this time. And how we face this time will create our pathway out of the darkness of the humanity's soul right now. I think humanity is in the dark night of the soul. Not that I fool myself that there haven't been times in history when we have had similar circumstances and rises and falls of empires, including the Roman Empire, which there, if you study history, there's great analogy to what's going on right now to what was going on in the time of Nero. Nero being voted in by a populist government, having a great focus on revenge, having a mind that was petulant, manipulative, and filled with superficiality and an ego about his own genius. Nero also played the fiddle when Rome burned. I was reminded of that by Washington's response when Los Angeles was burning. But to cut a long story short, in astrology, Pluto was in Aquarius every 247 years. And one of those periods, one of those cycles was when Nero was in power. I think I've mentioned to you before that another cycle when everything got turned upside down was when Pluto was in Aquarius, when Henry VIII was in power, and he literally kicked out the authority of the Catholic Church and turned everything to Protestantism so that he could become divorced, so because he wanted a male heir, so he kept killing off his wives or divorcing them so that he could create a son, which he never actually had a son that took over. It was Elizabeth the First that ended up taking over the rulership of England. So where we are right now, I really want to speak to everybody about self-care right now. Taking your focus. Yes, check in with the news if you want to know what's happened that day. Give it about 10 to 15 minutes of your life. If that, I mean, I'm obviously a political creature too, but I no longer watch the news for very long. Mostly because I feel caught up in a negative vortex. I put my focus outside of myself. It's very depressive. And it's not that I don't feel that we should ultimately, that we're going to have our time of immense response. And you see that burgeoning around the country right now. You see people starting to rise up for different causes that are dear to their heart. I feel like I said, we're at this nadir in America. We're at the lowest point America has ever been at. We're the most polarized. We don't listen to each other. Lying and deceit have become a way of life. Not that politicians were lily white before, but there's definitely been a descent into massive power struggles and wanting of money and fame and control. So what to do in those times? What to do if you personally in your life are confronting a huge challenge? I know a lot of people right now are leaving the earth, leaving their bodies. And so a lot of us are dealing with hospice work or someone very ill around us, or mental illness seems to be on the rise with all the anxiety, or just plain old fear, which on its own creates enormous response in our physical body. Right now, our nervous systems are being upgraded energetically. So our nerves are very raw, very sensitive. We're feeling kind of wide open, no place to hide. What do we do? We all know somebody that's suffering right now very intensely. We may be suffering intensely. I want you to look, not what I want, but my suggestion would be that you look at your life and realize in the depths of your soul that these times are the times of growth. America and the world and humanity are being asked to greet transformation, to greet a rebirth. We needed to go through this. We have been so obsessed and focused on the material world and the world outside of us. And technology has moved faster than we have as expressions of our soul. So we're being asked right now to really understand what it is to be in a state of faith. What is courage? What is honor? What is being true to ourselves? It's not about pleasing others right now. It's about going inward and hearing the depth of wisdom of our own soul, keeping our focus inward right now. It's like a pivoting time right now, and the time is going to come when we rise up and defend and speak out. But to me, it feels like individual groups will do this all over the country. But when I did my I do every year what I call a deep trance reading. My friend Valaday comes over. She records it for me, edits it for me. I do it in January or early February. I go into a deep space of beingness, and I speak whatever comes through me for an hour to an hour and a half. This year, I think it was an hour and 17 minutes. I don't share everything I see because not everybody's ready to understand or receive everything that I've seen. I've been through a lot in my life, so I can look at a lot, and they can tell me a lot. And I want to tell you, whatever you've been through, excuse me, I got a bit of a scratchy face today. Whatever you've been through in your life, whatever you have suffered through, help others with that issue now. Say you brought up a child with mental illness, or say you had a husband or son that went to the war and came back with PTSD or traumatized in some way or physically injured, and you had to work through that with that person. Say you went through a lot of death recently, and you had to confront grief, and you had to confront these pathways of immense sorrow. I can tell you personally that everything I've been through, everything was something that I knew at a soul level I would face in this life. And that I came into this life in particular to grow immensely, to grow in compassion, to grow in my capacity for mercy, and to grow in wisdom, to develop my intuition. By intuition, I don't just mean I've got chills, I got a feeling about this. I'm talking about going into the deep, calm recesses of the deeper mind and listening and hearing, and through life experience gaining a guidance how to navigate difficult times, painful moments of loss and suffering. All of what you are going through right now is going to be a gift, is going to help you grow, is going to help you become a broader, more expansive, compassionate being. We have not been listening to each other. We've become so polarized, not just between the wealthy and the poor, but between racism and non-racism, between judgment and non-judgment. We're just so lacking the capability at this time to build bridges. We've made people the other. We've made them our enemy. We're all cells on the human body. And like I was saying to someone yesterday, some of those cells could have cancer or diabetes or neuropathy or whatever. But they're still all on one human body. And the best way to heal that human body is through the avenues of divine mercy and wisdom. Another thing I want to say right now is that we need to set boundaries in our life. The greatest way that we show ourselves self-love and honor our own self-respect is to have boundaries with other people. And if people are taking advantage of you, you're not being a saint to stay in there for the long haul if they're abusing you or they're not honoring who you are, who you've worked hard to become. So I remember I went through a very tough marriage for 21 years. My husband had been in the war. He had terrible PTSD. And he became very crippled throughout the marriage. And I took on his 2 children and my 3 children that we had together. So I was supporting 7 people for 21 years throughout the entire marriage. I thought, oh, I'm doing this, I'm so good, I'm the one carrying the load. I hate to say it, but when we end up focusing on ourselves as being the savior, we don't look at ourselves. We don't go into the core of ourselves. Now, I'm glad that I did this for him. I'm glad that I cared for the father of my children until he died in a terribly difficult way. But it was not until after he died, and I spent 3 or 4 years really looking at the suffering and the trauma of that marriage, and looking at myself and my role in it, and saying, okay, you went through that. What were you supposed to learn? And I spent several years looking at what I was supposed to learn. I was blessed with a beautiful, gentle, compassionate mate that I met that just literally put up with me crying for several years. I mean, we had fun, we had love, but it was a very traumatic release time for me, and a healing time for me, and a time of understanding. I wasn't just looking after him, that we had created a contract, and that I learned unconditional love, compassion, and how to be wise and set boundaries through going through that marriage. So it was all a gift, and it was something I had to learn. So I made that choice, and I was responsible for those choices. And those choices affected my children, and they affected me. So what I'm saying right now is, sit quietly while you're going through these times of fear zones and anxieties and a sort of inner trembling as our nervous system is readjusting to the new energies that are being sent to the earth right now. And ask yourself, what am I supposed to be learning? How am I supposed to be growing, so that through that growth, the learning that I am experiencing, I can share with humanity, I can help others. It's all of suffering to me. I call suffering the baton. I go through a certain segment of suffering that man experiences. I heal, I find a way out, then I pass that baton to somebody that's just going into that period of suffering. So it's all a gift, honey. It's all a gift. What you're passing on is your gift back. So we didn't come here thinking it was going to be easy. And this idea of think good thoughts and everything good will happen. Yes, I'm a positive, optimistic person, but sometimes we have to go through profound suffering. The soul goes through its periods of grief and lamentation as much as it goes through its glorious experiences of beauty and goodness and joy and laughter. But those hard times, those are the times that make us, those are the times that bring us to a new expression of being. And I am grateful for all that I've experienced, all of it. So grateful. And what I've learned since Wayne, my stepson, 15 years ago, Gigi 13 years ago, and George 2 years ago, what I've learned from the loss of those 3 children and from the loss of 3 deeply beloved mates that impacted my life greatly and that all died suddenly. What I've learned is that it was all a gift. The depth and the parts of myself that I had to uncover and restore and heal and understand the broader picture has been why today I feel I can help so many, why I feel the mother quality within my soul to be here for you. Not that I'm so great, but that I did do that hard work. I did do that deep diving. I didn't shirk it. When I went through the death, I didn't just, yes, I had to work right away because I had no money, but I took thousands of hours of introspection on what I needed to learn. And I learned several things. One thing I learned was to let go. Let go. You have no control over what happens to somebody else or how they act toward you, but you do have control over how you respond to it. So I learned how to respond to life in a deeper, more, I hate the word, it's so abused today, spiritual, but in a more enlightened way. I learned to face the vicissitudes of life with more strength, more courage, and more compassion for myself and the errors that I made in this life. So I'm a great believer in reflection, but not just reflection where you look at what you went through, but reflection where you see where you could have done it differently and make those changes in yourself. So right now you've got a grand opportunity to make changes in yourself and to bring yourself to a new level of experiencing every aspect of life. I can tell you truly, I wouldn't change one day that I've lived. I have the most beautiful experience of life. And yes, I do still have my days of intense suffering or missing, but the moments of bliss and joy are beyond words. So I hope this helped you. If you would like an astrological or mediumship reading or just need to talk, I'm here. That's what my life is for now. And every time I give a reading, you'd be amazed how much I still have to learn. So God be with you. You can contact me at angelicmercy44@gmail.com or visit my websites, which you'll see below, that show all the different things that I do. Thank you, and may God guide you, and may you keep your eyes inward and upward. Bye for now.